I'm Brandi Kruse. Coming up today on Undivided, blue state so-called leaders are ratcheting up rhetoric against immigration agents. Plus, a mom says the state of Washington, the Puyallup School District, and a taxpayer-funded law firm helped her child disappear, all in the name of radical gender ideology. And a series of random stabbings happened over the weekend, including one of a man who says he was stabbed for being Christian. That and much more coming up today on Undivided. Remember, you can support our show for just $5 a month by signing up at undividedpod.com. That's undividedpod.com. Click on the banner that says support the show. Hello, and welcome to Undivided. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. I'm Brandi Kruse. A ton to fit in today. I am more convinced than ever that these blue state leaders want there to be violent confrontations between rioters and ICE. Absolutely convinced. They don't care if people die. They don't care if people are shot. They don't care if, there's widespread violence and vandalism. They want it. And you might be saying, Brandi, your show's called Undivided. Don't be so divisive. But I just can't come to any other conclusion. Because if you were trying to lower the temperature, if you didn't want people to die, you certainly would be using every waking breath, encouraging people not to stalk, track, harass, assault, and interfere with federal agents or any law enforcement for that matter, because that's the one thing that you can try to control, right? Let's say that you really believe the Trump administration and the Department of Homeland Security is totally gone off the deep end. Let's say that you really believe that they're this untrained, dangerous, Gestapo-like force. Then you probably shouldn't believe that you can control their actions or get them to back off, right? If that's your mindset. So the only thing you can control is whether you're out there confronting them. If you think they're unhinged and you don't want people to die, as an elected leader, you should probably say, control what you can control. Hey, let's not go follow them around. Let's not create an atmosphere that is dangerous and unpredictable. You would say the opposite of what Governor Bob Ferguson in Washington State was saying over the weekend. He put out this post. Another person shot by ICE agents, another life lost. Our descent into authoritarian rule continues. This is a dark chapter in our history, America. Don't sit on the sidelines. Defend your democracy while you still can. And invariably, when they come out and say stuff like that, they'll put these tiny little asterisks in there and say, peacefully, of course. Peacefully, of course. It's like the lieutenant governor of Minnesota, put your bodies on the line. Peacefully, of course. Is there a peaceful way to put your body on the line? I mean, it's insane. And when you're saying to people who already kind of believe it, that we're in the middle of an authoritarian takeover and you should defend your democracy while you still can, that is not something that you're asking people to do peacefully. That has a connotation. And first thing this morning, Governor Bob Ferguson, Attorney General Nick Brown, they came out, they had a press conference where they just fanned the flames of division and rhetoric and did everything they could in this 30-minute press conference just to make things worse.
Now they are killing Americans who are holding a camera. ICE is, to be blunt, completely and totally out of control.
If you're going to go after the worst of the worst, you don't target parents dropping their kids off at their preschools. You don't go to hospitals. You don't go to places of worship. And you sure as hell don't use children as bait.
So we've got the governor of the state of Washington saying the United States government is murdering people simply because they're holding a camera in their hand. And then you have the attorney general, the state's chief law enforcer, who's regurgitating lies that have been debunked for 6 days now. This idea that they're using children as bait. There's been 2 stories like that in the last year. Both of them were debunked within minutes. Even legacy news outlets admitted in the last instance the 5-year-old wasn't used as bait. The 5-year-old's dad in Minneapolis didn't want to be detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, so he ran and left his 5-year-old out on a cold street. And you have the AG who's so set on increasing tensions, so set on raising his political star in this very volatile moment in American history, and I do acknowledge it as that, who's like, yeah, I'll go ahead and say they're using kids as bait, because that'll get people fired up. And the governor, oh, yeah, peacefully. Do it peacefully, of course. But, you know, they're murdering you. They'll murder you just for having a camera in your hand. It's insane. And then, because they have to be the center of attention, this is why I say that they want this. Tim Walz in Minnesota, after the whole fraud thing and while that's going on, he wants to change the narrative. He wants it to be about orange man bad, authoritarianism, do not pay attention to the widespread fraud that's happening here. So there's a reason why Tim Walz is totally fine with this happening in Minnesota. And then all the focus is on Minnesota and Governor Bob Ferguson and AG Nick Brown. They can't have that. They're attention whores. They can't have that. And so now they're out there this morning, again, inflaming the tensions and trying to scare the hell out of Washingtonians.
We are focused on preparing to the fullest extent possible for a similar escalation by ICE against our will here in Washington state. And we are prepared to use every tool at our disposal to mitigate against the harms inflicted by ICE. And if ICE escalates their presence in our state, we will need even more Washingtonians to step up and to help.
That's insane. That's a call to violence. Because you can say in there, peacefully, of course, but the rhetoric you're using, the tone you're using, the claims you're using about authoritarianism, and then saying we need every Washingtonian to step up and help. How do you want him to help, Bob? How do you want him to help? Because what we see in our state and other sanctuary jurisdictions and far left places where far left and Antifa violence is common is we see that their form of helping, right? Their form of helping is violence. Their form of helping is vandalism. But I want to play this clip because it underscores the point I'm trying to make today, which is they're doing this for attention. They want all eyes on Washington, not all eyes on Minnesota. They want to be part of the fight. It was almost like a campaign speech. They want to be part of the fight against the Trump administration. And so Bob made sure to fit in a little humble brag.
No state in this country has a governor and attorney general who have the level of experience the two of us have confronting the Trump administration and defeating the Trump administration.
So he wants more than anything. I believe this with every fiber of my being. Bob Ferguson wants more than anything for there to be violent confrontations between federal agents and citizens of Washington on the streets of Seattle. He wants it more than anything. Because what he always has wanted more than anything is for his political star to rise. And so he sees this moment, he sees the attention Minnesota's getting, and he wants that attention right here. So why not wake up on a Monday morning after we find out the Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl, could have had a nice press conference about that. No, we got to scare the hell out of people to make them believe that something that isn't happening here is going to happen here, and that they're prepared to handle it because no one is better than him at fighting the Trump administration. He even said, he threw out there that he's met with the National Guard in our state and said, I'm not going to share those private conversations. But the insinuation was that he's met with the National Guard in our state to talk about how they would fight ICE. So he's setting it up essentially for our National Guard soldiers here to be used to fight federal agents on the streets of Washington state. It's absolutely insane. You probably saw some video from Minneapolis over the weekend about how bad things have gotten there. Not a surprise. But I just cannot believe the rhetoric that Governor Walz continues to use. And he said that he is, what of his Minnesotans?
If it was the intention of Donald Trump to make an example of Minnesota, then I'm damn proud of the example that the world's seeing.
You're damn proud of the example the world's seeing. Okay. Are you damn proud of this that happened last night?
Look what they've done. They've shut down this entire street. It's barricaded with trash cans, debris, mattresses. Look at this. Total takeover by Antifa and far-left activists.
Are you damn proud of that? rioters, a mob encircling a hotel in your state where tons of people are staying who have nothing to do with ICE because they believe there might be some ICE agents staying there. So they mob it and they break the windows and they break in, and there's violent confrontations between federal agents who are there, left with no help from the local police. It took them like an hour to get there as these people just bash in the windows, push in the doors. How many Minnesotans, Governor Walz, were staying at that hotel last night? How many kids might have been staying at that hotel who had nothing to do with any of this? And you allowed them to be literally terrorized in your state's largest city. And Bob Ferguson this morning characterized what's happening in Minneapolis like this.
I began my comments by speaking about the recent events in Minnesota. I want to emphasize that in the face of cruel and unconstitutional actions, the people of that state are stepping up and helping one another in often deeply moving ways.
Deeply moving ways. Was this deeply moving? The federal agent who was trying to guard and protect the people inside that hotel, bleeding profusely, standing guard when Minneapolis police weren't there, the Minnesota State Police weren't there, being surrounded by a mob while he bleeds from his hands after a violent confrontation. Is that deeply moving, Bob Ferguson? I mean, why wouldn't he think it's deeply moving? Bob didn't say jack during any violent rioting, and that's without exception. During any violent rioting for all of 2020, when Bob Ferguson was the state's chief law enforcer, he said nothing. 1 month takeover of 6 square blocks of the city, where people were patrolling the area with AR-15 rifles, which Bob was trying to actively prohibit from purchase at the time. Young black men were killed in CHOP. Reporters like myself were assaulted in CHOP. Bob didn't say anything then, probably because he was deeply moved by it. Now I understand the kind of things that deeply move Bob Ferguson. It's political violence carried out by the left. That's deeply, deeply moving to him. I saw this really interesting post on X that shows really, and I want to be clear. I saw the video of the ICU nurse who was shot. It was Border Patrol, not ICE, who shot him fatally. And I have a hard time understanding the justification for it. And I'm not the only conservative who feels that way. I saw Congressman Michael Baumgartner on social media saying he was concerned with the video that he saw. But I'm not going to sit here and go through frame by frame like these people are doing. And everybody going through frame by frame says, see, he had a gun. See, he doesn't have a gun. It's definitive. It's definitive. I don't know. I wasn't there. I can't see it from every single angle. I don't know what happened. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, it was definitively justified or it was definitively not justified. But this is about more than just that moment in time. There is no police force on the planet that has a 100% track record for not using excessive force. No police force on the planet. And sure as hell, if you're being mobbed, if you're being stalked, if people are threatening on social media and saying we should go out and shoot these agents while they're out doing their jobs, no police force is going to be able to operate in a professional or perfect manner under that kind of hostility. And this hostility is almost exclusive to jurisdictions where elected leaders have used the kind of rhetoric that Tim Walz has used, saying we're at war with the federal government, kind of rhetoric that Governor Bob Ferguson uses. There was this post put out by this data guy, Kevin Bass. He said, I can't believe it. He analyzed public databases and media reporting on violent confrontations with ICE over the past year. He said just 9 counties account for 2/3 of violent confrontations with ICE in America. That's twice all violent confrontations in the remaining 3,134 counties combined. So 9 counties have double the violent confrontations with ICE as 3,134 other counties. In those 9 counties, he assessed that there was a 590 times more likely scenario that there would be a violent confrontation with far-left activists and ICE. Where do you think those are? I don't even have to show you the map. You obviously know where they are. They're in the jurisdiction where elected leaders have said things like what Bob Ferguson said this morning. They're in the jurisdictions where elected leaders have said things like what Tim Walz is saying. It's in Seattle. It's in Portland. It's in Los Angeles. It's in Chicago. It's in New York City. It's in Minneapolis. And you want to look at that and say, that's just a freaking coincidence? ICE is operating all over the country. ICE is operating in red states. The difference is their elected leaders aren't using violent, hostile rhetoric to describe what immigration agents are doing. The difference is, in those other areas, police are cooperating with ICE. Police have the back of ICE agents who might be mobbed or stalked or assaulted in the field. And so when you think of it that way, these statistics make an awful lot of sense. In places like Washington, where we have leaders like Bob Ferguson, who want to stoke and fan the flames, you're going to have more violent confrontations because they're asking for it. They're excusing it. They think it's okay because they want attention. And after all these years of Donald Trump, they think this might be the one thing that they can finally crack the support for Donald Trump. And that's all that matters to them at the end of the day is politics. They don't care if people die. They don't care if you die, if you get shot in the head by ICE. They literally don't care. It is absolutely insane. And I just want to make one more point about this. And this is the most bewildering thing to me. So Tim Walz said this about the federal agents in Minnesota.
Donald Trump needs to pull these 3,000 untrained agents out of Minnesota before they kill another person.
3,000 untrained agents. And he's described them that way many times. Totally untrained, not up for the task, can't do their jobs professionally without killing people. They're just killing people at random. If you really believed that, then you would make sure that with every sentence you utter, you are telling people not to engage with them. If you believe they're just stone cold Gestapo killers, you wouldn't send out your citizens to confront them, would you? You wouldn't send out your citizens to try to run blockades. You would tell your citizens, stay the hell home. We will deal with the federal government. We will speak to the Trump administration. We'll try to bring an end to this if you really feel that way. A real leader would say, but the last thing that I want any of you to do is to go out and interfere with any sort of law enforcement investigation. That's just asking for someone to get hurt. Is that not what a real leader would do? You can get up there, Bob, at the mic, and you and AG Nick Brown can pat yourself on the back for all your fights against the Trump administration, and you can virtue signal and say, we're dealing with the dark, whatever, in our history. But then you say, and you look right in the camera, and you say, but I don't want a single one of you to get hurt in the process. I don't want a single one of you to be out there on the streets creating a hostile environment that's only going to make things worse. But they're not leaders, and a hostile environment is exactly what they want because it helps them politically. And that is absolutely disgusting. All right, coming up next, we have a crazy story. It's an exclusive here on Undivided. If you're a subscriber, you watched the interview yesterday on Sundays with Subscribers. I want to play a couple clips from it. A mom who says her 16-year-old daughter has been missing now for 2 months. Family doesn't know if she's dead or alive. And that mom blames the state of Washington, the Puyallup School District, and a taxpayer-funded law firm. So we'll hear from her. First, are we in a tech bubble? Are we in an AI bubble? Are you concerned about the impact all of that might have on your retirement portfolio? Our friend Zach Abraham this Thursday at 3:30 p.m. is having a free New Year Reset live webinar. You can sign up, again, totally free, Know Your Risk Podcast, knowyourriskpodcast.com. And he's going to discuss the impact AI could have on the market this year, how Bulwark Capital is focused on risk management, and how they incorporate value-based principles in managing retirement portfolios. Plus, they'll do a full reveal of how Bulwark is always looking for opportunities to lower risk, lower cost, give your retirement as much upside as possible. So you can do a few things at knowyourriskpodcast.com. Register for the free New Year Reset live webinar. You can also subscribe to Zach's daily market recap or schedule your own personal Know Your Risk portfolio review. All of it at knowyourriskpodcast.com, knowyourriskpodcast.com. All right, this is a heavy one. I want to introduce you to a young woman named Eleanor. Eleanor is 16 years old, and we don't know where Eleanor is. Eleanor might be on the streets somewhere in Olympia. She really could be anywhere. I think Olympia is the best guess. But her family has not seen her in 2 months. Her family does not know if she's dead or alive. And they say that that is because the state of Washington, the Puyallup School District, and a taxpayer-funded law firm worked together to help Eleanor leave home and to shield her location from her parents, all in the name of, you guessed it, radical gender ideology. So we were contacted by Eleanor's mother, a woman named Jody Holman. A little bit of background here. So Jody's married to a member of the military. So they moved around the country quite a bit when Eleanor was a kid. And they were living in North Carolina in 2018, sort of the lead up to the pandemic. And in 2019, they moved to Washington State. And they were gearing up to enroll Eleanor and their other children in the Puyallup, Washington School District. Now, at the time, so Eleanor's like a preteen, and she had some general issues, like any preteen sort of angst was, some anxiety issues. She'd also been a victim of a past trauma. Her mom doesn't want to get into the details because she doesn't want to put very personal details of her daughter out there that could maybe hurt her chances of coming home, essentially. But, she was generally well-adjusted, Jody said.
She has always had some generalized anxiety, even as a small child. And that's always been monitored and looked after and adjustments made as things have gone on. She was completely stable. She was thriving in her education at that point. She was being looked at for the Gifted Talented program that was through the school district. She was doing well in her academics. She's a strong reader. She was an avid reader, and she's very smart. She was doing, she was in friend groups. We were working on trying to establish what we were going to do and what type of extracurriculars we were going to plug the kids in, things like that.
Before going into the Puyallup School District in that 2019-2020 school year, did Eleanor ever bring up any gender identity questions or concerns? Is it something that came up at all?
No, not even a single time.
When did it start coming up?
One. After.
Yeah. So here you have family was living in North Carolina. Things were fine. Some general teenage angst and anxiety issues that they were dealing with Eleanor, but generally okay. Getting ready to plug her into a new school district right before the pandemic, Puyallup School District. So all of a sudden she starts school in Puyallup, and these issues ramp up. All of a sudden she starts having some pretty severe behavioral issues, truancy, acting out. So they're in a new school district. This is happening. Jody says it seems like as these behavioral issues start to pop up, as Eleanor is getting a little older, it seems like the school and Puyallup School District is working with the family great.
When issues did begin to arise, everything initially appeared cooperative. Meetings were polite, they were reassuring. School staff was friendly, attentive, consistent. They expressed that, this is a team effort. We're all working together in Elle's best interest. We need to monitor her academics so that way they don't fall behind and provide at-home work. While we were doing all of these things, the school was very cordial and respectful of us and appeared to be having this open dialogue.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds normal, right? Kids having behavioral issues. One of the biggest ones was running away, was sort of truancy issues. And the school seems like, hey, we want to help you with this. We want to help deal with this and make sure that Eleanor stays on track at school. So that was what they were putting forward, according to Jody. That was their front-facing posture over all of this. But behind the scenes at the school, when the parents weren't there, what the parents didn't know is that the school was actually doing something much different.
Elle was running away. And she would run to railroad tracks. If anyone's familiar with Puyallup, there's railroads. She would run to the railroad tracks and she would lay there. This is a safety concern that we're trying to mitigate. And so the school was provided with safety issues that we were seeing at home that we didn't want to have mimicked at school. The school provided in junior high, against our knowledge, a pamphlet, a sheet of names of businesses where gender affirming care could be sought out. The issue that I had with it was all during school hours, and they were all off campus and required a bus for these junior high students to go to. And my issue, and I brought it to the school, and I had a meeting, and even some of the school district employees, not just the school, but the district, came to these meetings. And I continuously said, the issue is, this is a safety concern. You're providing information and encouraging a child to leave the school campus during school hours when they, not only is it any child, but this child specifically who has elopement issues, who are trying to not have runaway.
So she's already been, laying on railroad tracks. You've talked to the school. So totally unbeknownst to you, in junior high, while you think the school is working collaborative with you to deal with these issues Eleanor is having, they're sending her off and giving her information on gender clinics?
Yes, not once, because I found it and I said, please don't just give this to my child again. It's against her safety plan. But the counselor at the time, even in subsequent meetings, stood up and said, it is my right to provide that information.
This gets worse. This gets much worse. But let's just all make sure we're on the same page here. So you've got a child that's acting out in junior high. This is Allen Junior High in the Puyallup School District. Parents think, oh, the school's working great with us on this, on the truancy issues, on the acting out and all of this. No, what the school is actually doing is sending this, according to the parents, sending this preteen girl to gender clinics during the day, providing this preteen girl who's never expressed to her family ever before any sort of gender dysphoria, giving her information on gender clinics that she could go to during school hours when you're talking about a kid who already has truancy issues. And then when the family finds out, says, don't give this to my child again. And the school counselor, according to them, says it's my right to do so. And as I said, it gets much worse. So whatever's happening behind the scenes in the Puyallup School District, now all of a sudden you've got this girl, never expressed any sort of gender dysphoria, has some past trauma, which we know kids with past trauma are very susceptible to radical gender ideology and to this idea of being transgender, etc. So someone at the school believes it's a good idea to connect this child with an outside attorney from an organization called Team Child, an organization that has received hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayer funds from the state of Washington to provide kids with free legal services and advocacy, okay? So now the parents, they didn't know the school was giving her gender resources, and then they had no idea that the school was connecting a young teenage girl with all sorts of behavioral issues with an outside law firm that the name says it all, Team Child, not Team Family, not Team What's Best for Everyone Involved, not Team Child. We're going to do exactly what the child wants us to do, especially if it's a child that's saying that they might want to identify as a boy. Oh, goody. Now we got our hands on a kid who's really struggling with their gender identity. And what does Team Child and the Puyallup School District help this young kid do? Here's Jody.
Team Child helped her to petition for an emergency guardianship placement.
Wow. On what basis?
That we were abusive parents.
Okay. Is there evidence of abuse? Are you abusive parents?
In fact, DCYF had been through our home, and because while Eleanor was having a crisis, had made some claims, and the claims ended up that DCYF wanted to check our home for safety concerns, for all the things that they check for. And I invited them in. I, had them do their report, do their digging and do what they needed to do. And nothing, unfounded. Everything came back as unfounded, because we don't abuse our kid. We've done whatever we can do to support our children in their endeavors. And when one is struggling, the way Elle was struggling, we're doing our damnedest to just be there for her while she's going through this, because it's hard.
Now, this gets even worse. Yes, we're going to continue to get worse. So, as I said, Eleanor had been running away from home. And there was one point when she was at Puyallup High School where she was missing for a month. Imagine that. Your teenage child already dealing with all these issues. Now you hear that the school district in junior high had been giving her information on gender clinics. You find out the school district has connected her with this law firm. Your child's missing for a month. As she's missing, okay? As she's missing, they find out that their daughter is taking them to court, and they have to go to court because their daughter wants an emergency guardianship change hearing, right? And their daughter is going to be represented by this teen child. Guess who else shows up? You know, again, there's no evidence of abuse in the home. No evidence of abuse. Guess who else shows up to this emergency hearing to argue that their home is not safe for Eleanor? Well, the school district does. The first you hear that the school thinks you are basically providing a toxic environment for your daughter is in court?
Yes.
Wow.
And we had been in communication with the school about the fact that our daughter wasn't going to be attending. She's still missing. We don't know where she is. She's still listed as a missing person, a runaway, keeping the school informed. We didn't know that they were already in communication and were going to court against us. And they're like, oh, we're so sorry. We're sorry to hear that about that. We know this must be hard for you. But the same entities showed up at court. The same person who I'm calling and leaving these messages with, we don't know where she is. We don't know anything. If you see her, please call us.
Wait a second. So you guys, your daughter's missing. She's run away. Mm-hmm. She's already working with Team Child, through the school to take you to court. And the school knows it. And they're telling you, we don't have any information about your daughter?
No, they didn't even address it. They just said, we're sorry that you're going through this. This must be hard for you.
Wow.
The same individual that I am calling, giving an update of, no, Elle will not be returning to school yet because she is still missing. The same individual.
Wow. And what was their role at the
testified against us.
Was it a teacher, a counselor?
It was a counselor.
Counselor. Oh my gosh. What was that like to find out later on that as you'd been this desperate parent, our daughter's still missing, and them offering you these platitudes that they knew your daughter was going to take you to court?
Such a backstep. I would call in tears when Elle would run out of the house saying, I don't know if she's coming to school because we have to go to the ER. Like I would call them and I would just be upset. I would come to the school. I would do, the same person that was like, oh, I'm so sorry. This is so hard for you. What can I do to help your family? Then turns around just a few days later, shows up at court, which is odd. As you're sitting outside the courtroom, you're going, why are they here? And then they get up and testify saying that your house is terrible. Your home environment is so negative that this child should not have to return to this home.
Think about what you just heard. You got a mom, teenage daughter's missing a month in a new state, or a state that's relatively new to them. No idea where their child is. Calling the school, giving the school updates, giving a school counselor updates, only for the school counselor to say, gosh, man, I'm sorry you're going through this. And then days later, the school counselor shows up at a court hearing. Knew all along. Kept information from you as a parent. Well, it's every parent's worst nightmare. You don't know if your kid is dead or alive. School knows. School knows. They don't tell you. Show up and without any evidence of abuse or anything like that, show up, according to Jody, at a court hearing and testify that your home is an unsafe environment for your child. And I asked Jody, if there's no evidence of abuse or anything, what do you think there's two people from the school, she says, who showed up. What do you think they were basing that off of to suggest that your home was an unsafe environment for Eleanor? Did you get the sense that they didn't think your home was fit because they thought you didn't support Eleanor's desired gender?
Yes.
And why did you get that feeling?
Because they expressed it.
All of this over radical gender ideology. And that's the law in Washington state. Several years ago on this show, we warned you repeatedly about Senate Bill 5599. We even tried to go out and collect signatures, held events across the state to collect signatures to run a referendum on it after it passed. We called it state-sanctioned kidnapping of kids. And what 5599 did is it equated not supporting your child's desired gender with physical abuse. And it said, if your child runs away from home because they don't think you're going to support their gender ideology, then they can go to a shelter or whatever it is, and the state will not tell you where your child is. Probably one of the most dangerous, insane laws in the entire country. And I think that Eleanor and her family are victims of it. And here's the saddest update of them all. So during all this, at some point, Eleanor comes back home, and they're trying to get Eleanor help. Again, because she has past trauma. We know kids with past trauma, very susceptible to radical gender ideology. But Eleanor comes back home. So they decide, screw this. We're moving to Texas. Husband had got an offer to maybe move to Texas for military, thought we got to do this because Washington state is not safe for us and it's not safe for our family. So they're in Texas 2 weeks. What happens? Eleanor runs away again. This is a news story from CBS Austin. Hays County Sheriff's Office seeking missing 16-year-old last seen in Dripping Springs. You see the date on that? December 3rd. They still don't know where Eleanor is. Over Christmas, over New Year, almost the end of January. That family, now in Texas, has no idea where their child is. They believe Eleanor could be using the name Elliot and could be today on the streets of Olympia. I would ask the state of Washington. I would ask the Puyallup School District. I would ask Team Child. Is it really safer for Eleanor to be a missing kid, God only knows where, than it would have been for her to be in that home with parents who were helping her sort through her issues, who were getting her therapy, who were making sure she was in school, who were working to try to deal with all these issues she was having? You really think, because of radical gender ideology, she's safer on the streets of God only knows where than she is at home with her family? If you think that, you are sick. And I think one of the craziest parts of all of this is, there was so much stuff going on with Eleanor. So many, especially once she got into Puyallup High School, all these issues her parents were dealing with and getting her help with, that when the gender dysphoria thing came up, they just didn't even care. They're like, we're going to put that on the back burner and we'll deal with it at some point and talk to her about it. But they weren't even going to fight her on it. If she wanted to call herself Elliot, they weren't even going to push back on it because they were so concerned about other things that were perhaps an immediate, putting her life in jeopardy. So there was no indication that they wouldn't have, or that they were saying, we're not going to accept this. This today, and what happened, this is the law in Washington state. Everything that happened there. 5599. And now I will say, this is Jody Holman's story. This is what she is saying happened these last few years, these last 6 years. Now, we do our due diligence. This is an opinion show, but we did everything we needed to do to try to confirm every single aspect of this story. We reached out to DCYF. We reached out to Team Child. We reached out to the Puyallup School District. We even reached out to the judge that heard the case. DCYF said, we didn't really, can't tell you, can't answer your specific questions. The judge that heard the case, she can't answer your specific questions. Team Child, have they even responded? I don't even think we've gotten a response from Team Child. We did get a response from the Puyallup School District. Here's what they told us. As a matter of district practice, we do not participate in interviews or commentary-style programs, including podcasts or radio-style shows. Accordingly, the district will not be providing comment in response to your request. What a cop-out. Missing kid, family blames you. Family says you strung them along, acted empathetic while you were indoctrinating their child, while you were preparing to send employees to court on behalf of that child. Child's now missing, and you say, well, too bad. We don't talk to podcasts. We're not going to talk to the one person who's actually willing to ask questions about this, because they know none of the mainstream media, none of the legacy newsrooms are going to ask about this. Of course not. So this is a safe response for them. We just won't talk to her about it. And you think that's going to stop us from reporting on it? Not a chance in hell. We are going to put this as far up the freaking flagpole as we can. I already got immediately after Sundays with Subscribers aired yesterday with this interview. I got contacted by the attorney who's helping push the lawsuit against 5599 and who's trying to help President Donald Trump write up an executive order on this very issue. So you think that sending us a little email saying, oh, you're a podcast, you do opinion, you think that's going to stop us? You know who they do have to answer questions from? Parents. If you're a parent in the Puyallup School District, this is the second story we've done on the Puyallup School District, which is supposed to be like a purple area of the state. Second story we've done in a week. In a week. Last week, what did we do to end the week? We talked about the fact that they got 2 males wrestling on their girls' wrestling team, that 13 girls went to the principal and the vice principal and said, we're not comfortable with this. And the principal and the vice principal sent them home with some pamphlets on being transgender and what it means. Puyallup School District never even responded to us on that story. And now we've got this, and because we're a podcast, it's their policy not to respond to opinion shows, but they'll respond to parents. They have to respond to parents. So you send them emails, you call the office, you demand to know, is this happening with my kid? Are you doing this to my kid? And you show up at those school board meetings and you demand that they answer to you. If they won't answer to us, fine, but they have to answer to you. And we're not going to let this story go. And again, just for the sake of trying to at least give this family the knowledge that their daughter's alive. Nicole, can you show the picture of Eleanor one more time? Eleanor is 16 years old. Could be using the name Elliot. Has some friends that she made while she was here in the Olympia area. If you see Eleanor, she is a missing child. Call 911. Call the Hays County, Texas Sheriff's Office. So they can at least, they're probably not going to come here and try to track her down, but they can at least call Jody Holman and say, hey, there was a sighting of your daughter in Washington State. So maybe they can sleep a little better at night. The state has lost its freaking mind. And this is not the only story. Eleanor's is not the only story. We know there are multiple other parents who have dealt with something very similar and fled the state to try to save their kids from the radical gender ideology in Washington State. And all of this, let me just create a quick juxtaposition for you. Around the same time that they passed Senate Bill 5599, Washington State also passed something called the Keeping Families Together Act. How ironic. What did the Keeping Families Together Act do? It made it more difficult to take a child out of a home where a parent was actively abusing fentanyl. So these things are happening on parallel tracks in Washington State. We're going to make it so that kids have to stay in a home with one of the deadliest drugs known to man being abused. And then at the same time, we're going to make it very easy and we're going to help a child any way we can flee a home and leave a home where there's no abuse whatsoever, no danger whatsoever. But that kid wants to be trans, and by all means, we're going to help him do it. Think about that for a second. What sense does that make? When we warn you about these things, we know. I called 5599 the most dangerous bill I'd ever covered in 15 years covering politics in Washington State. Democrats pushed it through. We couldn't gather enough signatures on a referendum, and here we are, missing kids, living on the streets. Unreal. If you want to watch that full interview with Jody, it's up right now for subscribers on Patreon, Locals, and X. Go to undividedpod.com, undividedpod.com. Becoming a subscriber is the best way to support the work that we do on this show and stories like that, so we do appreciate it. We're not done with this one. There's going to be a lot of follow-ups on this. I think my main thing, above and beyond everything else, is I want someone to be able to set eyes on Eleanor and at least get news to her family in Texas that she's not dead. Not asking too much to let parents know their child's not dead, but apparently that was too much for the counselor at the Puyallup School District. Unreal. I almost want to just end the show because I'm so mad about this. I almost just want to end the show today and scream into a pillow somewhere. Wild. But we'll keep on with the insanity. There was a string of random stabbings over the weekend. One of them happened to a guy who said that he was asked what his religion was, responded Christian, and then the suspect stabbed him and stabbed his dog. Insane will also have an interview with a guy who was randomly stabbed outside a coffee shop. A very harrowing story. We'll have that coming up. First, if you are a small to mid-sized landlord in the state of Washington, consider becoming a member of the Rental Housing Association of Washington today, rhawa.org. rhawa.org, Washington's trusted resource, empowering housing providers. They are down in Olympia right now trying to push back against bad housing policy. So by becoming a member, you're helping with that work. But you also have a team in your corner that's going to help you through all the crazy ups and downs of being a landlord in a state with rent control and with all sorts of other policies and restrictions. They can make sure you got all the right paperwork, especially, if somebody's got like one or two properties or you're new to it. Having someone who's an expert to help you through it is just what you need. rhawa.org. rhawa.org. I have to get a drink of water because I'm so spun up over that. I got a sweatshirt on. Just everything. Every time I think about when you again juxtapose some of what they say they're doing to help kids versus other things, they don't care about helping kids at all. They care about their ideology. Their ideology says, oh, drug abusers aren't bad people, so let's keep a kid in a home with a drug abuser. Their ideology says, oh, if you don't support radical gender ideology, you're a threat. You're a threat to your child, so let's help a child escape from home, even if they end up on the streets. You know how crazy that is? Of course you do. That's why you're here. That's why you watch this show. Just wild. All right, there were a string of random stabbings over the weekend. This segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. If you sign up for their newsletter, you can be alerted to opportunities during this legislative session to get involved, to speak out or testify against bills or for bills, etc. So it's a good time to sign up for their newsletter, future42.org. So let's talk about a couple of the things that happened over the weekend. This one is getting national attention. So this happened in Pierce County. Guy's walking with his dog, gets stabbed after the suspect asked what his religion was. Okay, so this is the narrative from the Pierce County Sheriff's Office. 54-year-old male victim called 911, said he was stabbed near a quick stop grocery store in Parkland by an unknown male who fled. Deputies arrived. The victim was in serious condition and told deputies the unknown male had come up to him, asked what religion he was. The victim answered and said something about being a Christian. And the man then attacked and stabbed the victim and his dog. The victim was able to provide a description of the male suspect prior to being transported to a local hospital. The victim's dog was also in serious condition. The dog was also transported to a local animal hospital, taken into surgery immediately. We will check in on both of their conditions. Deputies used canine to search the area for over 2 hours and were unable to locate a suspect. And then they said at 8:40 a.m. while conducting an area check, a deputy spotted the suspect. The suspect fled behind a nearby home. Deputies followed the suspect and reported shots had been fired at 8:47 a.m. The suspect was taken to a local hospital. His condition is unknown at this time. So deputies found the suspect, shot him, and he's alive for the time being. But I'm very interested to hear more about
the suspect died.
Oh, did he die overnight?
I believe so.
Okay, because I know last night he was still alive. So, well, if the suspect died, that's really a shame. But, I would have liked to hear exactly what happened with the confrontation. And, I think that whenever you talk about random stabbing, it's either very personally motivated, or I think a lot of the times has to do with someone with mental illness, randomly stabbing people. That seems to be what happened in Redmond. So Saturday morning, a woman was stabbed by a stranger on a trail in Redmond. Scary stuff. It says Redmond police is from Como News. Redmond police searching for a suspect after a woman was stabbed Saturday morning on a trail in Redmond. The victim was in and out of consciousness, but was able to answer some questions and told officers she did not know the suspect, leading police to believe the stabbing was a random attack. The person of interest is described as a male, possibly white or Asian, approximately 5'9", with a slim build. So just crazy. I mean, we have random stabbings occasionally, but there have been quite a few. There was also this story, and we're going to dive deeper into this one today. So on January 15th, a story came out in Como News. The headline, verbal argument may have led to stabbing outside a Kent coffee shop, a coffee shop called Lula Coffee. So if you read that article in Como, you would have been led to believe that two dudes got into an argument outside a coffee shop and one stabbed the other. But according to the victim, that's not the case at all. So we were contacted after that Como News story was published by the victim, Undivided subscriber named Tim Rockwell from Bellingham. He says, I didn't argue with anyone. He says this was a straight up random stabbing. He says he was meeting a friend at the coffee shop, comes out saying goodbye to his friend, when this person just comes up to him and stabs him in the neck. Here's pictures. He was taken to Harborview. Sorry, I should have given you a warning. A little graphic there if you don't like blood photos. So he gets transported by ambulance to Harborview, gash in his neck. And I'm sorry, anywhere you get any size stabbing in the neck has the potential to kill you. So Tim absolutely could have been murdered that day outside the coffee shop. Then he gets home from the hospital only to read this story. And it sounds like he was beefing with someone, like that he provoked this guy to stab him. Isn't that the craziest thing in the world? So we're going to have an interview with Tim about this momentarily, but we did reach out to the Kent Police Department. They said at this time, the case remains under active investigation and no information can be released. A person of interest was identified. However, no arrests have been made. While the person of interest appears to have had prior contact with law enforcement, we're unable to release any information regarding that individual as the investigation is ongoing. Additionally, some information gathered during the initial call for service still being reviewed and requires further confirmation. We know in talking to Tim that he did do a photo lineup, but was unable to pick out a suspect from the photo lineup. So they had taken someone into custody that they thought might be the person. Tim couldn't identify them, so they don't believe that that person is the stabbing suspect. So it's just crazy. And Kent Police said that they're the ones who told Como that this had started with a verbal altercation of some kind. But again, Tim says, no, having coffee, come out, stabbed in the neck, end up in the hospital. It's crazy. So he joined us to tell his story. Tim, welcome to Undivided. I guess the first question is, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It was a scene out of a horror movie. I'll tell you that. I was getting a cup of coffee in Kent at 1:45 or whatever, 2 p.m. on Thursday. I was saying bye to a friend outside in the parking lot. They were getting into their car, their driver's side door, and they're like, Tim, look around. And we turned around, and 6 feet from me was a transient person with a shiv, a prison shiv knife in his right hand. It was like, oh my gosh, this is not some panhandler, He was, and then he said, mother effer, I'm going to get you, and, you want to fight. I don't really know exactly what he said because I just was staring at that shiv and knew we were in big trouble. So then my friend got in the car safe, and I started backing away because I'm not going to fight this guy with a shiv. And so he ended up so quick. He hit me right in the neck. It felt like he punched me, but obviously he shivved me in the neck.
Wow.
And I stumbled around the front of the car to get into the passenger seat. And he was still like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He was still just coming right after me. Nothing happened. He didn't see me at all. We didn't have any verbal confrontation as Como thought. It was just, he really just wanted to kill somebody.
You're saying in the Como News story states that police say there was maybe some sort of verbal altercation that led up to the stabbing. So you're saying walk out of the coffee shop, your very first interaction with this man, he's already got a knife out.
No, I'm not even, my back is turned to the driveway. I'm just saying bye to my friend who's at the driver's door of their car.
Yeah.
And then I turned around and I didn't see him outside. He wasn't outside at all. He was just walking in the parking lot.
Yeah. So you exchanged no words with him before a knife was brought out?
No.
Wow.
No, it was just all of a sudden, it was so scary. I turned around and he was right there 6 feet from us with a knife. It was a shiv, like a prison shiv, which makes it even scarier, I think.
Yeah. So what are the extent of your injuries? Because you got you got sent to Harborview, right?
Oh yeah. They brought me to Harborview. Huge gash, and they just barely missed all the vitals. I'm lucky to be alive.
Wow.
And they, put me into surgery. They were cramming my neck with all sorts of stuff because they needed to do an MRI and everything like that. So they got me into surgery, and then yeah, well, I was in ICU a couple days, and yeah, it was rough.
So did police arrest this man?
No. Well, I mean, let me continue. I mean, so I go around to the front of the car to get into the to safety to get into the passenger seat, and he's still following me. Then I stumbled back to the coffee shop, and the minute I got to the sidewalk of the coffee shop, that's when I realized all the blood was just coming down my neck, and I got hit, like stabbed. And I was about to pass out, stumbling. He's still following me. And then I opened the door of the coffee shop. He's right behind me. I had to push him outside and then just hang on to dear life on that door. So he's pounding on the door. He's trying to get after me. He wants to finish me off.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, insane. That was with like the fight or flight.
Did he seem laser focused on you? Because you had a friend with you, so your friend wasn't being attacked or anything?
He was laser focused on me.
Wow.
I don't know. I didn't really look at his eyes because I was just looking at that shiv like, oh, that's serious business here.
Yeah. So what happens? I mean, you get to safety in the coffee shop. I mean, obviously somebody calls police, since you're saying that they didn't.
Yeah, then he walks away.
He walks away.
Casually walks away.
Wow. So what do you make of the Como News reporting? And obviously they're getting their information from police, but if you read that story, you would think that two guys got in an argument outside a coffee shop and one of them pulled a knife.
Yes, exactly. That's what it makes it look like. I think they're trying to hide the transient population that is right there. Apparently there's a homeless camp right across the street, you know?
Did police seem surprised that you'd been stabbed in the middle of the day?
I'm in the ambulance, paramedics pulling pressure on me and everything like that. And she's like, "Oh yeah, this happens all the time." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Random stabbings.
Oh my
happens all the time. And I was like, it's funny. I was like, "Can you hold my hand?" Like something, like my blood just gushing everywhere. She's like, "No, I'm not gonna hold your hand." That's how cold and used to this stuff they are down there.
Wow. And so you were in town for work, right? You were just down from Bellingham for work?
And I just stopped in for a cup of coffee, said hi to a friend, and I'm just heading back up. And I mean, yeah. Wow. I mean, this new coffee has like pink all over the place. It's all happy, and there's a T-Mobile next there. This is a clean area. I didn't pull into some dark alley or anything. This is a nice area.
Yeah, middle of the day on a weekday. Well, we're going to get to the bottom of this, Tim, as to how that narrative got pushed out to the news. We're going to see what the status of the case is and where they're at with the investigation. And we'll certainly be following up with you. But I'm happy you're alive, and I appreciate you telling us your story.
Yeah, lucky to be alive.
Just crazy. So 3 stories: stabbed for being Christian, stabbed for being on a trail, stabbed for being at a coffee shop. And I mean, there's this narrative going around that violent crime is down, but that's some scary stuff. And random stabbings, that's about as scary as a crime trend as you get. So we've been in touch with the police department. They're still actively, obviously, working on the case. And so I think we'll follow up on all these stabbings to see where they're at. But thanks, Tim, for telling us your story. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Coffee 1 second, stabbed at Harborview the next. Just wild. That segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. Make sure you sign up for their newsletter to be alerted to opportunities this legislative session right now to get involved and make your voice heard. All right, we'll get to our segment Unbelievable coming up next. Lawmakers focused on pushing forward a bill to take it easy on sex predators. Didn't pass last year, so they got to try again. That's their priority this year. Wild. First, Valentine Roofing, our wonderful show sponsors, have been awarded the best roofing company in the Pacific Northwest for 3 years in a row. Not 1, not 2, 3 years in a row. It's a really important time of year to talk about not only your roof, but also your attic insulation. So hot air, of course, rises. If your attic isn't properly insulated, that hot air is going to rise right through your ceiling, into your attic, out your roof. And if your roof is past its half-life, well, that sounds cold and expensive. So when it comes to staying warm and insulated this winter, it starts with your roof and attic. If you bundle right now attic insulation with any new roof, At Valentine, you can save an additional 10% off the entire project, and Valentine has exceptional financing options built around your budgets. They can help you out with that. Also, just a side note, if your gutters got banged up by those windstorms we had about a month ago and you're like, I really should do something about that, well, you can reach out to Valentine for that as well. So lock in your winter bundle savings, maybe schedule some time to get those gutters replaced. Call 206 Roofing today. Again, call 206 Roofing for your free estimate, and please tell them you heard about them right here on Undivided. And with that, let's get to our segment, Unbelievable. Oh, it's a short session, which means they should just be laser focused on all the most critical, pressing issues in the state of Washington. But what are they laser focused on? Oh, giving a hearing tomorrow in the Senate Law and Justice Committee to a bill that will reduce punishments for child sex predators. I wish I was making that up. I'm not. If you've watched the show for a long time, you'll be familiar with this effort. It was something pushed last legislative session. And I really thought, after all the outcry over it last session, like, what do you mean you want to reduce punishments for child sex predators? I really thought that was just something that would never be resurrected. Nope, they have no shame. They don't care. And there's a personal sort of angle on this for one of the sponsors, which I'll revisit in a second. But this is Senate Bill 5312. And again, it's being heard tomorrow in the Senate Law and Justice Committee. And essentially what the bill, it's hard for me to even share the argument they make because it's just so stupid. So they basically say not all child sex predators are created equal. They said there's a huge difference between someone who preys on a real child and someone who preys on someone online who turns out to be an undercover detective and wasn't a real child at all. They call it a fictitious minor. So they said people who were just trying to meet up with a kid online, but it turned out to be a detective, well, we shouldn't treat them like the child sex predators they are. This is a quote from the bill. Individuals who commissioned a predatory offense involving a minor victim could pose a different public safety threat upon release than individuals involved in a sting operation with a fictitious minor. I mean, how do minds even work this way? It's like so what's the difference here? If you were online, and there's this one horrible case we'll talk about in a minute, and you're trying to meet with a minor to sexually abuse them, what's the difference between whether the person on the other end is a real minor or you just think they are and it's actually a detective? You're saying the same things. Your goal is the same. How is one person less dangerous than the other? It's crazy, but we know that Senator Lisa Wellman is pushing this for personal reasons because she has a friend whose son was caught up in one of these net nanny stings. And it's like a disgusting story, too. This guy thought he was meeting a mother who was offering her 6 and 11-year-old daughter and 13-year-old son for sex. So that's the kind of scum we're talking about here. It's the son of one of her friends and constituents. And this was a story broke by our friend Jason Rantz. Great work here. Democratic senator pushed softer child sex crime penalties to help friend with his predator son. So that's what they're focused on, helping their buddies who have sons who think they're meeting up with a mom who's going to sell her kids for sex. Thank God it turned out to be a net nanny operation. Thank God it turned out to be a net nanny operation. And I am sure that Senator Wellman, when she introduces this bill in front of committee tomorrow, will say similar things, but we do have clips of her testimony from last session, including this gem where she says this bill is for the children.
I'm here for the 1.5 million kiddos in our state from birth through 12th grade, and making sure that they have what they need to thrive, and being safe and not being available, not being caught up, not being having predators take their childhood away from them in some horrible ways, I mean, is really what we're about today with these two bills.
That doesn't equate with the bill you're introducing. That doesn't make any sense. If I heard that testimony, I'd think, oh, great, she's going to introduce a bill that would increase penalties for child sex predators. No, it's a bill to decrease penalties for child sex predators. So you better believe we're going to be watching that hearing tomorrow, and you'll hear all about what happened during it at Undivided. But that's one that you definitely need to email your elected leader and say, don't vote for this because that's insane. Let's jump to our daily subscriber show poll right now because it's going to be relevant to our national stories we're going to get to. So I asked subscribers on Patreon, Locals, and X, should President Trump scale back ICE enforcement in Minnesota? So just given tensions and all of that, I heard this take from Megyn Kelly where she said Trump should pull all federal agents out of Minnesota, all of them, DEA, all of ICE, all these things, and just say, you know what? You're on your own. And in fact, any, asylum seeker or whatever, you can stay in the United States as long as you're domiciled in Minnesota. So send them all to Minnesota and see how the people in Minnesota like that. Now, I feel bad for, almost half the population that doesn't want that at all, and that would be thrust upon them, but maybe she has a point. So yes or no, Nicole, should President Trump scale back ICE enforcement in Minnesota?
Well, I'd like to say no, but I think yes. Maybe scale it back in a sense of just be a little bit more hidden. Right now, he's got all this extra help in there, and it's so
I mean, they're
so
tracking
apparent.
them, though. They're tracking them online, and they're going out. It's not like they're trying to find harass.
That's what I mean. I don't think it's effective the way that it's happening right now. So scale back a little bit, let everybody go home because they're cold, and then just quietly bring it back.
Yeah, I mean, I would say no because I have covered left-wing extremists for a long time, and I know that giving in to the mob is like giving in to terrorists.
Right.
But at the same time, you raise a good point about, is it effective? And like the guy in that video who's bleeding from his hands, you can see on his vest, it says Bureau of Prisons. So this is someone they brought in to help because of all the, rioting and stuff, so to help agents stay safe. But that's not someone who's equipped for a situation like that. Right. I mean, a prison riot is much different than that kind of lawless situation on the outside.
See the poor guy that got his finger bit off?
Yes. And I don't think that was that guy. I think it was a different guy.
That guy, yeah.
But it's like, okay, if you can't keep the agents even reasonably safe, maybe, but I'm going to go no for now just because I don't want to give in to the terrorists. 80% of you are saying no. President Trump should not scale back what's happening in Minnesota. And this is rare, but the same response percentage on both Patreon and Locals. Locals tends to be a little more conservative, but it's a 80-20 split right now. Winton says if they scale back, then they better be ramping up the $9 billion fraud case. Yeah, Matthew says scaling back is exactly what these people, including the politicians that know they'll interfere with law enforcement, scaling back rewards people breaking the law to achieve their objective. Greg says, I do not think it should be scaled back, but I think instructions should go out to all field agents about being careful about being videotaped and make themselves cognizant of the fact that anything they can do can be recorded. They also need to make double sure that they're not exceeding their mandate. And look, I've always said that, for those of us who are supportive of law enforcement, we have to be willing to be critical of law enforcement when it's necessary. And we want the law to be enforced well, right? And that's why I say I think there is room for criticism in this most recent shooting. I can't say definitively that I know everything and can say 100% it was justified or not justified. But when you're at least, and I think this goes for the president too, because there's some reporting out that the cracks are kind of showing where he's not necessarily happy with DHS's response to the shooting, where they come out and said this guy wanted to come there and massacre people. There was really no evidence of that. Like he had a gun, but conservatives are okay with, he had a permit for it. So I don't know. I just think that you have to step back and kind of mimic or give the posture that you want in return. Not that you're going to get it from the left, but like don't immediately come out and say he was going to massacre people. It's immediately justified. It's like, no, we're looking into this. We're going to try to find more video of the altercation. And if there's room to be critical, then be critical, because then, on the flip side, when you're defending justified actions, you have more credibility when you're doing that. I'll read a couple more responses. GTB says violent protesters have to scale back, not ICE. Kyle T says the folks who would hate Trump for it already hate him. For the safety of all involved in the proper enforcement of federal law, he should have scaled up the enforcement presence weeks ago. So that seems to be the consensus among subscribers. We'll get to more on President Trump's plans in Minnesota coming up next. First, if you're trying to save some money, you and your family, and you're looking at your budget and you're like, I don't know where we can save money, have you checked on your insurance? Because if you're kind of on a set it and forget it sort of thing, or you've done it yourself, chances are you might be able to save money on insurance, still have great insurance. and have so much of the stress taking off of the process. And that's why I'm a member of the First Mark family, and so many Undivided viewers and listeners are. Renelle says, heard about First Mark on the Undivided podcast. Right as our rental property insurance was being non-renewed, they were able to get us better coverage at a lower premium. We were so impressed. We have now had them find us insurance on all 3 rental properties, our personal property and our auto, all for less. Every single person we have dealt with has been absolutely amazing, and we get check-ins every 6 months to make sure all is well. I cannot recommend First Mark enough. And that's my favorite part too. They send us a nice little pleasant personalized email, checking in on me, Mike, the dogs, and everything every 6 months, making sure, hey, any changes to your life that we need to know about. And so I just love that about First Mark. You really do feel like you're part of a family. So firstmarkinsurance.com, firstmarkinsurance.com, and you'll be in good company because so many Undivided viewers and listeners are now members of the First Mark family. So firstmarkinsurance.com, the very best part is they work for you. All right, President Trump bringing in the big guns in Minnesota. But I kind of read into this post maybe a little differently, because there was some reporting. I think Bill Malugin from Fox said there is some angst, and the president maybe isn't necessarily happy with how DHS handled the press around the latest shooting and their response to it. So he said this early this morning: I'm sending Tom Homan to Minnesota right now. He has not been involved in that area, but knows and likes many of the people there. Tom is tough but fair and will report directly to me. Separately, a major investigation is going on with respect to the massive $20 billion plus welfare fraud that has taken place in Minnesota and is at least partially responsible for the violent organized protests going on the streets. Additionally, the DOJ and Congress are looking at Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who left Somalia with nothing and is now reportedly worth more than $44 million. Time will tell. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, I think his wording there is very interesting with Tom Homan, where he says he has not been involved in Minnesota so far. He's tough but fair and will report to me. I think he's sort of trying to give almost Tom Homan as a fresh pair of eyes, fresh set of eyes. And also to sort of be able to distance Tom Homan a little bit from everything that's happened in Minnesota to date. So I thought that was a very interesting wording from the president. And then he said that he got a call from Governor Tim Walz. Here's how I'll tell you how the president characterized that call and then how Governor Walz characterized that call. The president said, Governor Tim Walz called me with the request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call, and we actually seemed to be on a similar wavelength. I doubt that, but okay. I told Governor Walz that I would have Tom Homan call him and that what we're looking for are any and all criminals that they have in their possession. The governor very respectfully understood that, and I will be speaking to him in the near future. He was happy that Tom Homan was going to Minnesota, and so am I. We have such a tremendous success in Washington, D.C., Memphis, Tennessee, New Orleans, et cetera, and every other place we've touched down in. Crime is way down, but both Governor Walz and I want to make it better. So he's saying he had a productive phone call with Walz. Walz seems happy that Tim Homan is going, which I also sort of tend to doubt that he's happy about it. But Trump said, look, we just want the criminals in your possession. I thought was a very in your possession. So here's what Walz said about it. And again, so he confirmed the call. But then he writes this commentary for, the Wall Street Journal. And the headline is, The Un-American Assault on Minnesota. Federal officials are lying. My state's corrections department honors all immigration detainers. Okay, so he's like arguing with, and look, okay, we'll get into that in a second. He's using semantics there, but he said, I spoke with the president earlier. We had a productive conversation, and I explained to him that his staff doesn't have their facts straight about Minnesota, my thoughts in the Wall Street Journal. So the whole thing with immigration detainers. So there are some states where if you come with like a judicial warrant or something that they have to honor, like that's a different scenario. What we're talking about is proactive cooperation and saying, hey, we got an illegal in our jail. They're here on a robbery charge. You want to come get them? It's like, yeah, we'll come get them and we'll do it there instead of out in the community. So you can talk about official cooperation and capacity and stuff that's absolutely mandated that you can't avoid, but we're talking about for the good of public safety. And so that some of these enforcement actions don't go down in neighborhoods. Let's have as many of them go down in jails as possible. That's where the criminals are. If you know they're illegal, they're criminals, let's connect with ICE. Let's all work together to keep our communities more safe. But Democrats don't want to do that. So the question is, can there be a, give and take here? So Caroline Leavitt had a press briefing this morning, and she said that if the state of Minnesota stops trying to thwart lawful immigration efforts, then maybe it can be pulled back a little bit.
If Governor Walz and Mayor Fry implement these common sense cooperative measures, CBP will no longer be needed to support ICE on the ground in Minnesota. ICE and local law enforcement will peacefully work together, as they are effectively doing in so many other states and jurisdictions, to remove violent criminals from American neighborhoods across the country.
Yeah, so it was a Border Patrol that shot the ICU nurse. And they've been surged there along with apparently Bureau of Prisons because there's been so much hostility and efforts to interfere with ICE. So what she's saying is if you don't want that additional federal law enforcement presence, then what you can do is stop interfering with ICE agents doing their jobs and let them do their jobs as they did under Democrat and Republican presidents. They were all going out and making arrests like this. The difference is they weren't being stalked and harassed and videotaped and assaulted and all of these things. So that's what's making it seem like it's so much worse. If there weren't, and I again, without making sort of opining on whether the shootings were justified, in both instances, these are people who were interfering with law enforcement investigations, with ICE. So in both cases, if they had decided not to interfere with ICE investigations, they would be alive. That's just the truth. All right, really quick on California, because I thought this was funny. It'll just be a quick, funny one. So apparently California has spent $1 billion on this initiative called Clean California. One of the things they wanted to do, and did do apparently, we've got video here, is they have been installing what they said was graffiti-proof ivy along the 101 freeway in downtown Los Angeles. So they're like, well, people keep graffitiing this, and for our Clean California initiative, we're spending $1 billion on. Let's just cover that thing with ivy. It'll look nice. People won't go on there, spray painting all this graffiti. So my friend Kevin Dalton, who covers California politics, he's like, any bets on how long it takes for the graffiti-proof ivy to be covered in graffiti? Less than 24 hours. Less than 24 hours. They just graffitied the graffiti-proof ivy. Yep, there it is. $1 billion plan. Not that they're spending $1 billion on specifically the ivy, but they just, of course. How can you say it's graffiti proof? You can spray paint anything. And obviously they've spray painted over the ivy. Just another stupid idea.
Plastic ivy, maybe?
Oh, yes. Because they were putting it on in
then
sheets.
It's not even going to go away.
Yeah.
So if it was real ivy, it would grow out or you could trim it or whatever.
It's just the dumbest idea. Maybe, I don't know, do some enforcement activities. Actually hold people accountable who are doing graffiti all over public spaces and then costing taxpayers a lot of money to remove. I don't know, try fighting crime. Some ideas. Who am I? I just host a podcast. All right, we'll get to comments from the live stream coming up next. First, are you thinking about selling your home? We'd hate to lose you, but I don't know. Maybe the state's trying to kidnap and trans your child and you want to move to Texas. Well, I don't blame you. You can reach out to our friend Wes Jones at sellwithwes.com and he'll help you get the hell out of here as soon as humanly possible. So Wes is going to hate this one, or maybe he won't. He's like, can you not mix state kidnapping of kids in with my ad reads? Sorry, Wes, this is the show you chose to advertise on, and that's what we do. Sellwithwes.com. Wes and his team are great. There's so many 5-star reviews of the service they provide specifically around, and I think this is really what they specialize in, homes that need a little bit of an update. Maybe, you're lived in it for a while, you kind of let things go while you were there, but now in order to get top dollar out of it, you got to make some cosmetic upgrades. Wes loves that. Mark said we had to sell my mom's house. It needed a little bit of prep, new carpet, paint, yard work. None of us live nearby. Wes and Erica and the team took care of it all. All I can say, very smooth experience. Just what I was hoping for. We got asking price and it sold the first weekend. Mark B, 5 stars for Wes Jones and his team at sellwithwes.com. All right, comments from, and I'm sorry, Super Bowl, yay, I feel like people are so excited. I already said I have a beef against the Seahawks, but I was happy to see them go to the Super Bowl.
It was a
so
good
always
game.
Happy to see people, especially in this hostile climate we're in, to see people excited over something at all. So it was a good game.
Cheering together.
I thought,
it felt very unifying.
Yeah, I had to be at home with Lucky because Mike had to work, and so Lucky's little leg thing, which is getting much better, but I had to watch the game at home with Lucky. I was really thinking that personal foul on sportsmanlike conduct was going to derail everything. All the momentum when he taunted people on the sideline, and then the next one, he let them get a touchdown, just like a bomb pass. I was like, they're going to be so broken after that they're not going to be able to come back. But no, it's fine.
Angry and determined.
Angry at their own guy for doing something so stupid.
Or
But yeah, I mean, it was at least close, because the last game with the 49ers was not even a fun game to watch. It was kind of sad. I was like, do they have a mercy rule in the NFL? Because that should have been the mercy rule situation.
Have you seen the thing where each year that we've been to the Super Bowl is a year that a new pope was, or the year after a new pope was put in place?
I have not.
And there's another similarity along with that too, something with the pope. But every time a pope is switched,
we've only won one Super Bowl, though, right? Correct. We only won one. That was like 2014, something like that.
Yeah, no, that was the last time we were there and we lost.
I just remember I was in, was I in radio still, or I think TV? Radio or TV, I don't know. But I had to be down for the parade, and it was so cold. I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to die, and I will still remember how cold my feet felt. Anyway, some comments from the live stream. Bob Ferguson fanning the flames. Old Sub Sailor, Walls and Ferguson are promoting all this violence to distract from the corruption that they are personally involved in. Walls is already under investigation, and Ferguson will be soon, hopefully. Papa Woody is marked safe from being shot by ICE because I stay out of their way and mind my business. Yeah. And there has to be, personal responsibility. Now, I don't like the comparisons. You can get mad at me for this, but people, have a long list of people killed by illegal aliens, super long list, right? And then people killed by ICE, and it's like a really short list. I get it, but I have higher standards for federal law enforcement agents than I do for violent illegal aliens. And we have to have high standards of the government when they're acting in a law enforcement capacity. So I don't think those two things are comparable. But yes.
Caring about one victim over the other.
But let's care about human life, right? And let's not ignore. So I get it that there's this hypocrisy that happens. Eric, 496. The mayor of Renton put out a post saying that they aren't going to help with ICE or Border Patrol as a matter of public safety. Okay. Public safety. They have a really weird definition of public safety.
Yeah.
Moon Goddess. The sad part is the illegal criminals those idiots are trying to save by interfering and fighting ICE don't care about those idiots at all. I know. You're protesting on behalf of them one day, the next day they're robbing your grocery store or whatever. Don Hebeen, defend your democracy. That makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, Bob Ferguson. Defend democracy as you guys undermine the initiative process and right now are pushing through a bill to try to make the initiative process more difficult. Late Night with Tina, the signal chat issue is a big deal and needs to be investigated fully. These groups putting these things together are criminals. Yeah, our friend Cam Higbee exposed a signal chat that shows how organized it is. This isn't grassroots. Oh, just Minnesotans taking a break from my casserole cooking and my walleye fishing, and then I'm going to just go, go down and protest ICE. No, it's organized left-wing extremism, as it is everywhere that this sort of thing happens. And I can make that accent because I'm from Minnesota, and many of my family members talk like that. All right. Jerry Rowett, if that's what a peaceful protest looks like, I'd hate to see what a violent protest looks like. Yeah. Let's see here.
Did you see that one guy running in the window of that hotel, though? He was just jogging on the treadmill right above
another day in a terrorist stronghold, right? On the mom, Jody, who says the state basically helped her daughter run away from home. Michelle Wade says, interesting, they won't take kids away from drug-using parents and let the kids die, but they will hide a kid from a family over gender ideology. Yep. Matthew, it's interesting how time and time again, kids with gender dysphoria also have anxiety coping issues. And yeah, you might have noticed, we didn't get... So this is a mom who wants her daughter to come home, right? And so there's some things that she doesn't want to air, hard things about her daughter's life.
She doesn't want to embarrass her.
She doesn't want to embarrass her daughter. And so her daughter does have some past trauma, but the mom is just not willing to share that publicly, which is understandable. But it is interesting how many kids with gender dysphoria have some sort of significant past trauma in their life, right? Yeah. What they need is a therapist. What they need is help, not to be told, oh, you must be a boy. You must be a boy. Let's help you run away from home.
And
crazy.
Jody did tell me off the record, I guess, or off the video. Sorry,
if it's off the record, don't share it with us.
Not off the record, but off the camera.
Yeah.
That she had a counselor or a therapist that they really loved and that was helping and was giving in-home care and was doing great things. So she was at home making progress, getting sent to school and having that.
Yeah. A family that doesn't care about their daughter isn't going to make sure they have a therapist, isn't going to be taking them to appointments, isn't going to be calling the school and checking in, isn't going to be going to meetings with the school, working on safety plans. That's a parent that loves their kid.
Right.
That's a parent that loves their kid. And I don't even have to be a parent to know that. All right, on our streets not being safe, because we got all these stabby McGees out there, RM Calm says, never been such a time for absolutely massive situational awareness. I agree. And I've been talking a lot about my journey to being a firearm owner and like trying to feel safe and confident in that. And I'm just not quite there yet, but I feel like I just need to suck it up and do it.
One of the reasons we covered this stabbing on top of all these other stabbings, but is because it's not just happening in Seattle. I think we get these alerts and see things happening downtown Seattle or on Pike, but it's not. It's happening at a coffee shop in the middle of the day in Kent. It's happening on a trail on Saturday morning in Redmond. It's happening all over.
Outside a gas station. I mean, you really do have to have situational awareness. And I hate to say this, what is the phrase about where you make an assumption about someone? Profiling. I hate to say it, profile the hell out of people.
Yeah.
Like, don't feel bad if there's a homeless guy and you walk around the other street. No, do it. That's fine.
Right.
You know, profile people by all means. That's what profiling saves lives. Okay. Yep. Profiling saves lives.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to clip that and take it out of context, but you know what I mean.
That's where we are right now because we have elected officials that are telling us that ICE is the danger, not these people randomly stabbing people on the street.
Yeah. That's what Bob should have been having a press conference about today. Delaney says, this is exactly why I haven't left my house without my homies Smith & Wesson in years. Good for you. And I'm not worried when I'm with my husband, obviously, but when I'm alone, I just want to feel confident with my firearm. And I know that maybe this is just TMI for you guys, but as a woman, and I'm not saying all women, I'm sure there's a lot of women who carry firearms, I just keep going back to like, I don't want my gun taken away from me. So I just need to get some like skill in handling it, even more so than shooting it. Because like, anytime I'd shoot my firearm, the person's going to be close, right? Yeah. So I'm not worried about my ability to actually fire the gun. I'm just worried about like my ability to keep the gun in my hand. Is that stupid? I don't know.
It's the worry that it's going to go off and you don't want it to go off.
I will kick you right in the junk though. Hard. On Trump's message to Dem governors, Mama Pillow, the fraud in Washington state is going to dwarf Minnesota's fraud. The mob will take over our towns when ICE surges here. And then one super chat from Michelle says, I had to give a super chat for your cocaine shark remark last Thursday. I was talking about how all the cocaine, there it is, cocaine sharks, all the cocaine being dropped by these drug lords leading to the cocaine sharks.
Poor sharks.
All right, Nicole, thank you. And with that, let's get to our closing sanity check. So there's a video put out by the chief of the Vancouver, Washington Police Department. He posted it on X, Chief Troy Price. Now, this is also a reality. When you and like Bob Ferguson and Tim Wall says, go out, put your body on the line, confront them, save your democracy, chances are pretty good that you're going to have people who think any law enforcement officer they see is ICE. And we see that happening all the time. There was just a story of a Thurston County commissioner who went out and was live streaming an alleged ICE action. And it was local police trying to get an armed domestic violence suspect into custody. So they're out there just interfering widely with law enforcement investigations. So the chief of the Vancouver, Washington Police Department said, don't do that.
Members of the public have been following, yelling at, demanding identification, and engaging with our officers as they travel and at locations where they are working to arrest high-risk and often armed suspects. These units are responsible for apprehending some of the most violent offenders in our community, and the work they do is already extremely dangerous. Drawing attention to them increases the danger for everyone. These actions ultimately compromise my mission to keep Vancouver safe. Depending on the circumstances, such actions may be in violation of state law and could result in your arrest. I cannot make myself clearer. Do not interfere in the work of law enforcement officers while they are in the middle of an incident. Let us do our jobs so we can protect this community. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chief. Is that so hard? Let's not interfere with anyone. Now, he did go and show them the difference between ICE uniforms and local police, which sort of made me think that he's trying to say, you could still interfere with ICE and not local police, but let's just take him at his, let's take the sentiment of it all and just say, yeah, let's just not interfere with law enforcement. It's a really good way to stay alive. That has been your closing sanity check. That has been today's episode of Undivided. I am going to be sharing that clip from our, we did on the show today from the Sundays with Subscribers interview individually. And so share that far and wide so we can have as many people as possible know what's happening in Washington state. Maybe we can get the attention of the federal government in doing something. And also, I do want to help find Eleanor and just help her family know that she's okay. I think that's the most important thing. Okay, you guys, Monday, and then when is the Super Bowl? Not this, no? 2 weeks. Okay. I saw tickets going for $60,000.
Wild.
Good grief. Anyway, okay, subscribe to support the show if you haven't already. UndividedPod.com, UndividedPod.com. $5 a month. You help support all this work that we do, and we do appreciate that. So see you tomorrow back here on the live show. And I was going to have a live Q&A on Sunday because I'm not a football fan. I didn't realize the Super Bowl. We're going to do it Thursday night now. Thursday night. So you'll be getting a notice, subscribers, for a live Q&A